everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Point Podcast. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It's here on a Monday, the last day of May, as the world of sports is in full bloom. You could say with the Stanley Cup playoffs, we got the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball through 2 months of the season. We got the French Open going, the World Hockey Championships over in Latvia. We have the PGA, the U.S. Open is in a couple weeks. Torrey Pines. So a lot happening in the world of sports, and obviously tonight, I'm sure if you're in the area, there's two teams that people root for. That's Toronto, Montreal. If you're from the Rexton area, and that's uh, that's what's going on tonight. Game 7, 8 o'clock on CBC, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be tuned into that, and a lot of people's years possibly summer could be ruined depending on what happens tonight. Toronto having the big 3-1 lead in the series, choking it away, and now sitting 3-3 game 7 where anything can happen. I touched on it yesterday, but we will talk about it again today, some of the key factors and some of the things I think Toronto and Montreal need to do respectively if they're going to win tonight and move on to face the Winnipeg Jets in round 2. But yesterday we also there was two games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, both game ones of the second round. We saw Tampa Bay, Carolina, and then Vegas and Colorado in the nightcap, and they both did not disappoint when it comes to action, when it comes to the games being very competitive. The second game, I wouldn't say it was not competitive, but it was so entertaining to watch the Colorado Avalanche and what they can do as a team. In the first round, I mentioned this team looked like they should win a Stanley Cup. They put an exclamation point on that last night. It was only game 1. I think Vegas will come back, but we'll dive into that and just the play of Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and just a plethora of others from the Colorado Avalanche and their dominating performance last night. We'll start with Tampa Bay, Carolina. And the Carolina Hurricanes are this enigma of a team that you'd say, it's Carolina. Yeah, it's a good place to go to if you want to go on a trip. It's not a traditional hockey market. They don't win. They don't get good crowd, yada, yada, yada. And half of that's not true. But also, you got Carolina in a space where the media doesn't cover them. They don't care. And you got players like Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, both going, Svechnikov being the 3rd pick in the draft, Aho a high 2nd round pick. You got Jacob Slavin, who if he played in a Canadian market as the defenseman that he is, he would be regarded as a top 5 defenseman in the game because he is. But he plays in Carolina. He doesn't need that notoriety like, Morgan Riley, just to pick one, Shea Weber, guys who aren't, but get a lot of talk for being in the top 5, top 10 best defenseman in the league. But nevertheless, some people need that notoriety. A guy like Jacob Slavin doesn't. But coming into this series, you got the Point Palat Kucherov line. That drives the bus for Tampa. They have so much depth with Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, Yanni Gord, Alex Killorn. I could go on. But it's that big line that won the Cup last year, alongside Victor Hedman, who won the Conn Smythe with 9 goals, just productivity out the yin yang. But that top line, if you could shut it down, you have a good chance because Carolina, the way they're set up, you got a Svechnikov line. You had Aho playing yesterday with Brock McGinn, which I really like as a shutdown line, but also you have some offensive firepower. They lost Nito Niederreiter before the game. It was practice Saturday. It's been announced that it's unlikely he's going to return in the second round. That's a big loss. He's been having a great season and productive round 1. Then you have the Trocheck line, and they finish with Jordan Martinook, who is kind of your shorthanded player, veteran leader, kind of just an all-around force when it comes to being a good defensive, sound hockey player. So they're built 4 lines out, similar to the New York Islanders, but with a tad more skill on their roster. But yesterday, the first 10 minutes, it was Carolina. I thought they were aggressive. They were pinching. You see, their defense core who don't have a ton of experience. Jake Bean, he's pinching. He's keeping pucks in. You see the forecheck of Carolina. They were getting to Tampa Bay, Victor Hedman had a costly turnover trying to get a change, get off the ice. He turned the puck over. And it was an Aspen game. David Savard unable to play. Luke Shen had to be inserted. This is what good teams can do. You look at their defense score. You got Victor Hedman. You got Sergachev. You got McDonough, Chernak. Jan Ruda plays with Hedman. But you have a guy like Luke Shen sitting there in the wings. He was on the Stanley Cup roster last year. They kept him for $700,000. He was in and out of the lineup this year, bouncing back and forth from the taxi squad to the active roster playing games. But having a guy with the experience in the Stanley Cup playoffs as an extra is invaluable. And yesterday, I thought Luke Shen played fantastic. Did he get a point? No. Did he do anything that would make you jump off the charts? No. But he was defensively sound. He had a key block. He broke up a passing play from Svechnikov looking for Jordan Staal late in the second period. And it's just having that depth. And Tampa, and that comes with experience too, of course. You have a guy that you can insert that you're comfortable with, that you feel, okay, this guy is not just a seat filler. He's not just, you throw him on the ice and you're like, okay, when the hell is he going to get off? I think we've seen that in these playoffs, just going back to the Toronto Montreal series. Montreal's 5th and 6th defensemen played 6 minutes on Saturday. Brett Kulak and Eric Gustafsson played 6 minutes respectively. They have no confidence in that player. Luke Shen, did he play 25 minutes? No, but he's on the ice and you feel comfortable him being out there against any given matchup because he was just defensively, structurally sound yesterday for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I wanted to give him a little plug because I thought he played well for a guy that hadn't been playing and you get inserted. You don't know you're playing till warm up. I liked his game. But in the first period, the big thing, Carolina had 2 power plays. Tampa was chasing the game. Tampa played like they did against Florida in game 1, where they were a step behind. Florida should have won game 1 against Tampa Bay in round 1, but they took some stupid penalties, and it ultimately cost them. Yesterday, Tampa was chasing. You see a penalty by Coleman. He gets caught looking. Goodrow gets another tripping penalty. But Carolina, they can't capitalize. And who's back there but Andrei Vasilevsky. Sebastian Aho in the second power play, he's got a dead look right in the slot. Vasilevsky gets his glove on it and kicks the rebound aside. I mean, he's such a big goaltender. He's the best goaltender in the world. But, 0 for 2 in the power play, you need to score on those against a team like Tampa Bay. Second period, again, I thought the whole Tampa Bay roster was slow, but I think their best forward through 40 yesterday was Anthony Cirelli. He got an opportunity shorthanded where he got a good look on Nedeljkovic. He was aggressive on the forecheck. He was actually starting to create some opportunities for the bottom lines with him and Coleman and Killorn, because they kept mixing and matching forwards. John Cooper was just trying to find a spark. Nikita Kucherov didn't have it yesterday. He had 4 penalty minutes, and we'll get to the play that kind of broke down where he gets a point, but he was just behind the play yesterday. He didn't have a great game. The top line wasn't as dangerous as it normally is for Tampa, and you can credit that to Slavin and Brett Pesce. We saw at the beginning of the game was Slavin and Dougie Hamilton playing together, which is a great defense core in its own right. But when you got Slavin and Pesce on the ice together, they're both, you could say, a little bit more defensive minded. But Pesce will jump into the play. We see Slavin in Game 6 against Nashville. He gets points on the game tying and game winning goal. When you need him to, he'll step up. And Pesce's the same way. He has that playoff experience now, and yet he looks like such a more confident player, even from last year where playing against Boston. I thought he was a little timid. He was afraid to make a mistake, and guess what? He started making mistakes, because when you're afraid to do something wrong, and you can sometimes do nothing, and then that's worse than making a play that's a little bit more high risk. But so Carolina gets a couple power plays, they can't score on it, but Tampa, they draw a penalty, and it's a terrible start to the power play. They dump the puck twice. Kucherov's at the end of a shift. He's hoping to get off the ice, but he enters his own top power play unit. He gives the puck to Hedman. And Hedman does his little, he does these he skates sideways, basically what Hedman does, and it's incredible, just walking the blue line. He walks the blue line. He's getting chased, but points in front of that. He deflects Hedman shot through the legs into Dalkovich. It's 1-0 Tampa. And the power play had no momentum, nothing. But you get a play from Victor Hedman where he creates some space for himself because with his skating ability and just the sheer size of Victor Hedman, he can do that. Gets the puck to the net, and you get Braden Point, who gets his 5th goal to Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's Braden Point's a great player in the regular season, but he in the postseason he rises to another level. This guy is a superstar in the playoffs. Victor Hedman is a superstar year-round, but Braden Point's just another one of those clutch players. Like I mentioned, like Sebastian Aho last week, they come to play in the big moments, and he provided a spark there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we see both through 2 periods, both power plays are 1 for 3. Tampa's 1 for 3, Carolina's 0 for 2. But as we get to the end of the second period, Tampa takes a penalty for tripping, and that leads into the third period. But you see Carolina, they have more jump. Just 5-on-5, Carolina's a better team. I mentioned Florida was a much better team than Tampa in game 1. That crazy, one of the best games I've seen in ages in that game 1. But 5-on-5 play, Carolina's playing better. They have all 4 lines that are creating offense. Honestly, the best 5-on-5 line for Tampa yesterday, other than Cirelli when he was on the ice, I would say was the 4th line. Tyler Johnson, Patrick Maroon, and Ross Colton, they had jump. And especially when they're matched up against the Carolina 4th line, they had the advantage. At one point, Hamilton and Slavin got hemmed in. Hamilton and Yakapanya, their 6 defensemen, were hemmed in the defensive zone with the 4th line that then got switched to the 1st line, with changing on the fly for over 2 minutes. I mean, Hamilton was dead tired. They were stuck on the ice. But Tyler Johnson had some good jump. Patrick Maroon with his forecheck creating opportunities. And Ross Colton is a guy who was playing for Syracuse this year. He came up, started scoring goals, and he's stayed with the club. So I look at that 4th line as really their most dangerous unit yesterday. One point that you got to mention is at the end of the second period, Eric Chernak took a hit from Andrei Svechnikov. And when he got hit, he bounced into Vinny Trocheck. His helmet hit the helmet of Trocheck. He had to leave the game. He went to concussion protocol, and he did not return. So his status is up in the air. Obviously, that's a big loss. He's in their top 4, especially with David Savard out. But he did not return to the game. But I'm sure they're hoping he's okay. But possible concussion, that could be something to look at going forward when it comes to matchups and what they can do, especially if David Savard's injury is more of a long-term issue for the Lightning. So I mentioned that Tampa took a penalty, another Kucherov minor, and started the period, Carolina on the power play. They're getting some good looks. It's at the tail end of the power play. Jake Bean takes a shot from the point, wrister from the point. They got a little bit of a crowd in front, some moving bodies, and it goes over the glove of Vasilevsky, and it ties the game at 1. So it's at this point, Carolina ties it up. I mentioned, I just felt at that point, I'm like, well, Carolina's playing better 5-on-5. Vasilevsky's playing well, but it felt like Carolina was going to take control of the game. But there was a key point. I thought this was going to be a TSN turning point. I marked it in my notes watching the game. It was at 12:15 of the third. Alex Nedeljkovic makes a huge save on Anthony Cirelli, and then Kucherov's on the doorstep, and he stops him on the rebound as well with his pad. And I said, there it is, because on that same shift, Tampa took another penalty, and I'm like, okay, Carolina's going to the power play. Cirelli was in the slot, dead look, big save. Kucherov rebound, couldn't score, but as they're exiting the zone, Cirelli takes a tripping penalty, and I said, Carolina's going to score in this power play, and that's how you win these games. You get the breaks, you get a big save, and then you capitalize. Didn't work out that way. They don't let Carolina really didn't get anything on that power play. They continued to force them to take looks they don't want. They cleared the puck, and it kind of drained the momentum. So as the period goes on, you're thinking maybe this is another overtime game. But no, It was a simple play, 7:21 remaining in the third. After a few good shifts from Tampa, the top line was starting to get some jump. Braden Point was flying out there. Barclay Goodrow enters the zone, and he's skating alongside Brady Shea. They're kind of even. Shea's trying to keep him to the outside. But Nedeljkovic, for whatever reason, I don't know if he lost his balance, but he's out of position. He looks like he might have been leaning, wants to go to the post, but he's still in the middle of the net, still a little bit indecisive. So Goodrow throws the puck at the net, goes through the 5-hole Nedeljkovic, and it's in. 2-1 Tampa. An ugly goal. The kid, Alex Nedeljkovic, been really good in these playoffs. He's been good all season, starting the year in the AHL and working his way up to with Carolina here playing in the postseason. But this is a goal you want back, especially in a tie game. Your Carolina played better than Tampa Bay yesterday, and that ultimately was the game winner. A bad goal. Tampa held on the remaining of the game. Vasilevsky made some big saves in the last couple of minutes. But I see this as the same story as the Florida Panthers. You played better, but you still lost the game. And it can be that deflating. Tampa won game 1 on the road in Florida. And I think Carolina is a step above the Florida Panthers. But game 2, the pressure is on already. It's game 2, but you go down 2-0 going back to Tampa Bay. They've increased their crowd, and we see in Carolina, I mean, they basically got full capacity since game 1 of the opening round. But you can't have that. And you got to expect Tampa's going to come up with a better effort in game 2, because to me, Carolina deserved to win yesterday, but that's not always what happens. Looking at that overtime, Toronto deserved to win the game, but they didn't. In this case, Nedeljkovic lets in a bad goal. I'm sure he's going to look at the video today and just shake his head. But at the same time, for Carolina, Tampa's got more high-end skill than you. That's just a fact. That's not going to change over the next week or two in this series. But what you have to do is capitalize on the power play. You went 1 for 4 yesterday, so did Tampa. But Tampa has more game breakers. Kucherov can score 5-on-5. Steven Stamkos got that wrister. You need Svechnikov. You need Aho. You need Dougie Hamilton to be a difference maker on the power play. Get some more traffic in front. It was too easy yesterday for Vasilevsky to see pucks. It needs to be a key. Killing off penalties, of course, and you need to limit the penalties that you're taking. I thought the refs were a bit loose yesterday. They called a lot, but you need to take advantage of the opportunities, because the whistles will become less and less frequent as the series goes on. So, again, Tampa wins a game they didn't deserve to. Game 1s, they haven't been playing real well, but they got through it. That's the biggest thing for them that they can say. We won the game. Yeah, maybe we didn't deserve to win it, but we're a veteran team. We know how to win the playoffs. We got it done yesterday. We'll play better tomorrow night. And for Carolina, get pucks to the net. Make life difficult. It's going to have to be some ugly goals here. Especially Savard's out. If Chernak is injured, which who knows if he's playing, that's 2 really big defensemen. Chernak and Savard are both guys that can keep guys away from the crease when it comes to boxing a player out. Jan Ruda and I'm thinking of who will come into the lineup. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of who it will be. They're not going to be as tough as Savard and Chernak. I can guarantee you that. So get in front of the blue paint, get in front of Vasilevsky, make his life difficult, because otherwise you're going up against the best goalie in the world. Some might say it's Carey Price. You can say that right. That's recency bias. Andrei Vasilevsky over the last 2 years has been, head and shoulders better than Carey Price. Carey Price has missed half of the last 2 years, and while Vasilevsky's been winning a Stanley Cup and playing fantastic, you need to make it difficult on him. And Nedeljkovic, you let in a bad goal, but come back with a better effort in game 2, and prove that you can go toe to toe with the likes of Andrei Vasilevsky. So game 2 of this series goes tomorrow. I think this will be a great series. I predicted Tampa in 7. It's a 1-goal game in game 1. I think we'll see a lot more 1-goal, tight, close hockey throughout this series as well. So great start to this series, and it was a hell of a lot closer than the second game of the day. The second Stanley Cup playoff game of the day was not so close. Vegas heading to Colorado. Vegas just survived Game 7 with Minnesota Friday night where they won 6-2, but it was a passionate series where they had a 3-1 series lead. Minnesota just kept fighting tooth and nail. Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno, Zach Parise turning back the clock. And, Dean Evison's group just wouldn't quit. They brought everything they possibly could to Vegas, but Vegas withstood it, and they got through it. But, Vegas winning Friday, you play Game 1 Sunday, so you got to travel from Vegas to Colorado with the altitude. Colorado hadn't played in 6 days, so they're sitting there waiting. But I thought, I think Vegas will take Game 1. They're riding high off of victory. Colorado's going to be a bit rusty. They have a 6-day break. They're just sitting there doing nothing. You can't really do much in this COVID world because of protocol and, Dr. Fauci and all that shit. So, they're probably bored out of their mind, but can't do nothing. So, however, boy, was I wrong. First real surprise was I see in the morning, Elliot Friedman tweeted out that Robin Lehner would be making the start for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I understood it because Fleury had just played 7 games. It was a long grind. He had faced a decent amount of shots. Yeah, they got through it, but they had just played 7 games in a tight time frame, and you give him a break. You give him a game off. He comes back for Game 2. That's only going to be Wednesday, so we get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then play Wednesday. And Robin Lehner is a starting goaltender in the NHL. It's not like you're throwing in Curtis McElhaney in Tampa where you have a backup and it's defined. Robin Lehner has been a starting goalie. He's been a good starting goalie, and he's been good since he arrived in Vegas. So, but it did surprise me. Fleury was great in the first round, and maybe still ride with him. However, last night's game, I don't care if Fleury's in the net. I don't care if Patrick Waugh, Carey Price, you name the goalie last night, they're getting fucking lit up. And I mentioned Colorado. Just last night, it was like a video game. What the Colorado Avalanche did. Vegas is one of the best teams in the NHL. And the Colorado Avalanche made them look like novice players last night. It was that big of a discrepancy where Colorado just, if you watch Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, the great businessman, when he has a company that comes in and he hates it, and he knows he's not going to make any money, he says it's like an old dog. You take it behind the barn and you shoot it. Well, Vegas looked like an old dog last night that needed to be put down. They were just behind the play. They couldn't do anything with the speed of Colorado, with the dynamic passing. They were taking penalties. It looks like Ryan Reeves is going to get suspended. They were just behind the game from the jump. In the first 5 minutes, you could just tell there was no whistles, and they were just like, whoa, this is the pace this is going at? This isn't going to work for us. And it didn't. Colorado has so many dynamic players. Nathan McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, but the back end too. And I'll touch on Cale Makar. I'll go into a deep dive of Cale Makar and how good that guy is. But on the first goal, Vegas is they got a 3-on-2, but it's broken up easily by a great play by Devon Toews, who just steps up, grabs it in midair, and he starts rushing down the ice. And he takes it all the way from his own zone into the red zone. Beautiful saucer pass, tape to Mikko Rantanen, right in his backhand. He's flying down the right wing. He goes backhand over the shoulder, off the post and in, over Lehner, makes it 1-0. So okay, 1-0. Not a big surprise, but Vegas looked like the team who hadn't played in a week. Colorado was just flying out there. So, Colorado takes a penalty. Says, okay, Vegas will get some momentum here. None. They hardly got a look on Grubauer. He got one. He covered it up. He was just solid in the net. Right after the penalty, top line's out there again. Mikko Rantanen. He's a horse. The guy can score, but he's also just a worker. He's in the corner. He kicks the puck up the boards to Sammy Girard. Sammy Girard does a play that you don't see that much anymore, and it's so easy. A D-to-D pass watching the youngsters just want to go to watch, youth play. It's like foreign for a defenseman to pass to another defenseman. I don't get it, but good to see it from Sammy Girard. He goes tape to tape to Makar. Makar starts streaming in the zone. And this was a great play by Makar, but also a terrible play by Alec Martinez, where they had Rantanen in front. And he's a big body, and I get it, but they overcompensated because they already had Zach Whitecloud, who's with Rantanen. But Martinez goes to the middle of the ice towards Rantanen, trying to take care of him, which Makar's going down the right side. He spots who's on the left. Oh, Gabriel Landeskog puts it on tape to tape. He fires in basically an empty net with Leonard committed to Cale Makar, making it 2-0. I'll get into Cale Makar now. I mean, he had a 4-point night. This guy, if he can stay healthy throughout a regular season, which was his biggest issue, he's going to be a multiple-time Norris winner. Because right now it's about points, but also this guy can just play. When Erik Karlsson was winning, I'm not a big Erik Karlsson fan. I never will be, especially now because he's garbage. But this Cale Makar is just special. I mean, you got McKinnon, who's special. He looked like a human cyborg last night. But you got Cale Makar, who can skate out of the rink. You got McKinnon. This team is so loaded. And, even a guy like Valeri Nichushkin, you're probably like, who the hell is that? He was a Dallas first rounder. Didn't work out in Dallas. He went back to the KHL for a year. Went there for a year, rehabilitated himself, came back to Colorado. Is he a 30-goal guy? Is he worth a first-round pick when it comes to production? Maybe not. But he makes, $2 million now, and he's a third-line center, and he's damn productive at it. He's a big, heavy forward, and he's like an Adam Lowry in Winnipeg, where he just eats minutes, and he can score too, and he's a perfect playoff performer. And I give credit to him. You don't see a lot of Russian guys who are skilled when they come in and adapt their game. Well, he did, and he's playing center for the Colorado and doing it so effectively. So we go into the second, and you think, okay, Vegas can rally. No, the second period only got worse for the Vegas Golden Knights. Just a minute and 4 seconds into the period, Nichushkin, he's driving in the zone. I mentioned he's got power. He's trying. Nick Holden's trying to get the puck from him, but he powers past Holden, and then after he gets past Holden, it's basically a 2-on-1. Brandon Saad's coming down the other side. Nichushkin fires it over there. Saad beats Leonard. Another basically an empty net where Leonard's to one side protecting from Nichushkin, thinking he's got help on the other side. Not there. Saad puts it in the empty net. 3-0. At this point, it's 3 goals on 16 shots. I don't know why Sportsnet kept panning to the bench with the goalie pull coming, but I found that a bit pretentious. But nevertheless, I'm talking about Sportsnet here. 3 minutes later, this is Nathan McKinnon. He's got the puck. He's looking for a shot. Gets broken up. Gets in the corner. But he gets the puck. He finds Ryan. He gets the puck back. Finds Ryan Graves at the point. McKinnon moves back to the point area. Graves flips in the puck right back. He goes down to about the top of the circle. He doesn't even look. He looks like he's looking to pass. It's a no-look shot, and he puts it under the pad of Robin Leonard to make it 4-0 Colorado. Just this guy, his ability. We mentioned all these star players, McDavid, Matthews. Matthews isn't out yet, but he could be tonight. But McDavid, Crosby. This guy, it helps McKinnon. He's with great players, but he produces in the playoffs. After the first 5 games, he's got 12 points, which matches Crosby's record in the modern era for the most points in the playoffs in the playoffs after 5 games. So the guy's just out of his mind right now anyway. And 4-0, again, Robin Leonard's just like, what the hell? What more could go wrong for me right now? But, it didn't take long after that where you still see the bench. You still see, what's going to happen? Are they going to pull him? But that wasn't the story. I mean, it's 4-0 at this point. We're still in the second period. Gabriel Landeskog scores again on the power play. From Rantanen and McKinnon. Just a beautiful tic-tac-toe where McKinnon throws cross ice to Rantanen. He's on the top of the circle on the right. He throws it just a little pass in front. Landeskog tips it home to make it 5-1. About 30 seconds later, William Karlsson made it 5-1. So you get one, you don't get skunked, but then, before the period ends, you got Nathan McKinnon scores his 8th of the postseason. And then in the third period, Cale Makar scores a power play goal on the match penalty by Ryan Reeves. But so game 1, you haven't played in 6 days. Vegas coming off a game 7 win, and they lose 7-1. And like it looked like, Harlem Globetrotters, Washington Generals out there. It was not close. And like I said, Robin Lehner, I think that'll be a narrative today. I'm sure if you're a Vegas Golden Knights supporter, you're like, well, we didn't have Fleury in there. That's unfair to Robin Lehner. And also, I think it's you're putting down Colorado and just what they did last night. How impressive Nathan McKinnon was, Cale Makar, just how dynamic this guy is. That's really underselling what they did as a team. But Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, that top line, it's right up there with the perfection line. I think it's better than the perfection line right now. Landeskog's a guy who went a first overall pick and became a captain young, and people said, this guy's career is really, he's not a first overall pick worthy. And maybe he isn't, but he's playing with McKinnon and Rantanen right now, and he produces. He had 3 points last night. Cale Makar had 4. McKinnon had 3. Rantanen had 3. It's just their superstars are producing when they have to. I'm sure that's like a kick in the groin to the Leafs fans because their superstars don't. But this team is just so well built. Ryan Graves from Windsor, Nova Scotia. Is he a superstar? No, but he knows his role. He's physical, and he plays it well. Devon Toews, what a great addition. Islanders had to get rid of him for salary cap. Colorado's like, yeah, we'll take him. And he's easy top 4 defenseman. He honestly is more creative now because he's out of that Islander system. And he's a good skater. He can do a lot of things on the ice, and he's been great for Colorado in his role. I mentioned Valerie Nichushkin, but that's just Colorado, what they did last night. And Philip Grubauer didn't have to be great last night, but you know what? You'll take a night off, and he'll have to be great later in the series. For Vegas, just defensive lapses. I mentioned, you heard my recap, how many goals where it was just open net. Yeah, it was great passing. Don't get me wrong. But Martinez, Holden, you got to cover your man. It's just defensive systems. It was terrible last night. Lehner, yeah, he lets in a bunch of goals, but that's not all on Robin Lehner. That's on your defenseman helping. It's on containing Nathan McKinnon, doing a better job. If you're a winger, if you're a center, you got to be on him. You can't give him all of that room. You got to be on him and limit his creativity. You got to cover Mikko Rantanen. And I just look at that more than anything, where that was a bad performance by the Vegas Golden Knight defense corps last night. Alex Pietrangelo, Sheik, the whole lot. They were all bad. The whole team was terrible. I can't name you one Vegas Golden Knight last night that played well. And that tells you something. I mean, this team's elite. And the biggest problem they're going to have is, can they match the scoring? They're going to have to play a good defensive system or they're done, because they don't have the game breakers. Mark Stone's a great player. Max Pacioretty, having him back's huge. But Riley Smith, William Karlsson, Marchessault, they're not playing like they did in 2018. That line is not as dynamic as it was. Chandler Stevenson, as good of a pickup as he's been since coming over from Washington, he's not a guy that's going to break open the game for you. And if you're without Ryan Reeves, he's not a guy that will create offense, but he is a guy that plays a regular shift. He's effective, and he's going to have a hearing today. I saw John Shannon tweet this morning. So that likely means he's going to be facing a suspension, likely not in the lineup Wednesday night for game 2. But for Colorado, keep it coming. It's hard to play as good a game as you did last night. It's not going to happen. but play that same style. McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, play the shit out of them. The rest of the group just chip in. Nichushkin scores a goal. Tyson Yost gets an assist on the Makar goal. Ryan Graves has been getting points lately. So if they just keep playing like this as a team, it's hard to imagine this team not winning the Stanley Cup. Colorado's Tampa Bay's look strong. I still think they're a really good team, but Colorado is just playing at another level right now, and it's going to be tough to beat them with the way they're doing it and at the level that they are doing it at right now. But game 2 of that series goes on Wednesday. They're spreading out the games. We got the Boston Islanders game 2 tonight, Tampa, Carolina game 2 tomorrow. And then we'll get back to the series Wednesday night. The NHL is trying to have 2 series each per night. So 2 games per night for the second round. And they're just trying to fill in the spaces where, Winnipeg and Toronto and Montreal will play. And that will be Wednesday, and I believe Wednesday, Friday. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll see how that goes moving forward. I mentioned tonight, Game 7, Toronto, Montreal. I talked about it yesterday. But, tonight is a big night. And just thinking before the game, what are the consequences for each team losing? And, I think if Montreal wins tonight, I think Dominic Ducharme will be named the acting head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. He's an interim head coach right now. If you win a playoff series after being down 3-1, coming back and beating your biggest rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think you get the head coaching job whether you deserve it or not. Still not playing Alexander Romanov makes no sense to me. Sitting Cole Caulfield early in the series, sitting Kotkaniemi makes no sense. But nevertheless, I think Marc Bergevin will side with Dominic Ducharme, give him the head coaching job. Plus, how many other French-speaking candidates are there out there? The only one that comes to mind for me is Patrick Roy, and I'm not hiring him. I don't. That would be a Montreal move to hire a guy for PR. Just as he was great when he played here. Well, just because you're great as a hockey player does not mean you're a great head coach. Patrick Roy has only won 1 Memorial Cup, playing for coaching the Quebec Rampart, who has more accessibility and has the ability to get more elite talent than Quebec, and they've only won 1 Mem Cup. So that tells me that he's really not that. He's coaching junior guys, and he's still not that good at that. So I would not hire him. And so I think with a win tonight, Dominic Ducharme returns to the Montreal bench next season as the head coach. 2-3-year deal for him, and that would be huge. He'll probably get it anyway, but tonight a win, I think that'll lock that up for him. Other players on Montreal, you got to look at a guy like Corey Perry. I think he's had a really good series. If you move on, if he continues to play, does he get a contract again next year? I think retirement's always been a possibility for Corey Perry. If he continues to play, does he get another contract from Montreal? How do they look at Kotkaniemi? He's got 3 goals in this series. Does he get back into good graces? Does he get more of an opportunity? Things of that nature. Then there's Toronto. And if they lose tonight, obviously they would have been up 3-1. You blow it. You've already blown it. It means game 7. But they let Montreal, an inferior team, come back and beat you. I don't think there's going to be major shakeups. I really don't. Mitch Marner, I'm sure Leaf fans would love Mitch Marner to be traded. There's a sense of vitriol for him. And when it comes to his play on the ice, I think it's absolutely fair. He's got 1 goal in his last 16 playoff games. 17 playoff games now. That's garbage. Patrick Maroon's got more goals in that amount of games than Mitch Marner. Just a fact. And you're not going to trade Austin Matthews, so Mitch Marner would be the obvious one. Now, what would be funny from the fan base reaction is they would want to trade him based on his contract and him holding out more than his play, which is so petty and so Toronto because that is stupid, and it's not it's not smart business. But I have no problem with him holding out as a player. I've mentioned that before. You only got one career. Make the money you want. I think people at home sitting there saying, "Oh, how could you take 10 million? You're so selfish. The cap. You're a hypocrite. You got offered $10 million in front of you, and your buddy Larry, who fixes, who works with you at the mill, can only make 700. You're 700 grand. You can make 10. You don't care. You're gonna take the 10. It's called human nature. We're selfish. We're human beings. I think we just people need to get the hell over that. But nevertheless, William Nylander held out too. People hated him, and now he's a god again. After people were calling for him to leave town, never come back. So these things change. People forget, and people are short-sighted. I don't see them trading Mitch Marner. Are they going to trade William Nylander? Well, they shouldn't. He's been their best forward this playoff. He's been better than Matthews. He's been better than Marner, Hyman, you name him. He's been better. He's been really good. Freddie Anderson's gone regardless, so that doesn't change anything. He was leaving. He hasn't played a game in the series. If you lose the series, I still think Jack Campbell can come back as your starting goaltender. Sheldon Keefe's still going to be your coach. Kyle Dubas is still going to be your general manager. Like I said, I don't think it changes any big pieces on your team. Losing a Travis Dermott, that's inconsequential. Losing Joe Thornton, that's a good thing. The guy's useless. I think Jason Spezza will come back. He deserves it. He's got 3 goals. He's been an unbelievable find, and playing 4th line minutes and what he's done for this team, he's invaluable. He deserves another crack if he wants to continue playing. If there was a Mitch Marner trade, I would be shocked. But they'd have to do something. But I just don't see anything major happening because Dubas is steadfast that he loves this core, and trading Mitch Marner, Matthews, or Nylander is going against that philosophy. So we'll see if he does that. But I'm just with tonight's game is the start is imperative to me to the Toronto Maple Leafs. If they score the first goal, they will win tonight. They'll win the game. They haven't the past 2 games. They've been chasing the game, and they need to get to Carey Price early. Get Montreal in a defeatist attitude and have them start running around taking penalties. And yeah, you probably still won't score in the power play because it stinks. But at least, they're not getting scoring opportunities. But you also got to look at for Montreal in tonight's game, stay disciplined, but hit them. Be aggressive on the forecheck. That's been working for you the past couple nights. Don't let Matthews and Marner wake up. Continue to get in their slumber. And honestly, for the Gallagher, for the Sherratt, I heard earlier in the series, just from Leaf fans, because I know a couple, because I used to live with them, about how Matthews is laughing it off, Sherratt and Gallagher, they're not even worth his time. Well, I think maybe he should, wipe that stupid smile off his face and try to do something on the ice. Because I'll tell you this, Gallagher and Sherratt have gotten the better of Austin Matthews. Again, that's not just an opinion, that's a fact. He's had one good game, game 2. Other than that, I don't give a shit if he's got 8 shots tonight and he had possession times through the yin yang. If you don't score a goal, if you don't get points tonight, your effort is worth fuck all. Period. That's it. And it could be Austin Matthews is the 3rd best player in the world, and he's got a Rocket Richard, and it's the same argument as Connor McDavid. Free McDavid from Edmonton. If they lose tonight, I mean, we're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. They're the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. They get notoriety for no reason. They get notoriety for having a lot of money and failing. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not. And Matthews and McDavid would be in the exact same position. Because there's no, you can pick hairs and say, whoa, Toronto lost in 7 games, Edmonton lost in 4. There's no difference. You lose in the first round, you're golfing. Same tee time. And tonight, it can be put to bed. Austin Matthews had a shit series. Mitch Marner's had a terrible series. But if you come out and you play a great Game 7, which neither of them have their past two, or Game 5 last year for that matter against Columbus, then that narrative is dead. You are a clutch performer. You play in the big moments. And we'll see if they can do that tonight. But, it still remains to be seen what these guys can do. But if Marner and Matthews don't have a good game tonight, they should be crucified as much as McDavid has over the past week about Edmonton and you could say, oh, the depth's not there. Well, Toronto's a better team than Edmonton, and for them to lose, it would be heartbreaking, especially with the way the depth of the Toronto Maple Leafs has played. Alex Kerfoot, again, I don't like him at all as a player, but he's played well. Galchenyuk, yeah, he did terrible playing Game 5, but before that he's playing great. Mikheyev, I thought, played solid. Engvall, and your stars don't show up when your depth does. Shows you a lot about what you are as a player and what your intangibles are as a player in the playoffs. So put up or shut up time for tonight in Toronto. And also, this angered me yesterday. The NHL and Toronto Maple Leafs wanted to have fully vaccinated healthcare workers allowed to go to the game tonight. That's 2 shots, fully vaccinated, COVID free, whatever. And Dougie Ford said no. I mean, what the hell are you thinking? They're fully vaccinated. We're not letting in Joe, Larry, and John that were at Shea Paree the night before. These are healthcare workers who have been busting their ass for a year and a half, and you're not going to let them go to the game? And this is my problem with we'll get into it, with COVID and all this. People are getting vaccinated 1-2 shots, and they don't get different liberties than people that don't. Getting vaccinated should give you more freedoms, because guess what? You did something that, as a human right, you have a right not to do, but we did it anyway for the greater good. But when you do it, you don't get any kind of advantage. Healthcare workers, people that have done more for people in the last year than anybody on planet Earth. And you're not going to let them go to a fucking hockey game? I mean, come on. But, next year when tickets are flying off the shelves, you'll let in the suits, won't you? From Goldman Sachs. And they'll be paying full price, and that the Scotiabank Arena will be dead quiet like it is every other game. This is just ridiculous. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's a pandemic. I've been fucking sick of it for a couple months now. My mother's trying to talk me off the ledge. But it's this stuff where you get vaccinated, you do what you're supposed to do, quote unquote, and you still don't get any advantage. And this is not just me talking selfishly, not going to a game. This is people that have done something for people over the last year so productively, helping people, saving lives, and you can't give them a little bit of a break? It's just ridiculous to me. And this is not just Ontario government. This is around the world, where I think we're being way too, for lack of a better word, pussy about it, where everything's got to be politically correct, and we're walking on fucking eggshells around people. It just makes me sick. People are doing the right thing, and you're not going to let them go to a little hockey game tonight? Give them a little bit of normalcy where they're not wearing scrubs in a hospital around sick people all the damn time? I think we're getting better, and you see the States, you see all the people at games, and I'm like, this is great. And then we get here in Canada, you walk into a building, there's 2 other people give you the fucking crook eye, and you're like, Jesus, Murphy. Like, that's my rant of the day. But the fact that they're not allowing healthcare workers, they're not just people that are not vaccinated, that are at Shea Paree the night before grinding, throwing singles at strippers. This is people that are, politicians are fucking liars and stupid most of the time anyway. But this is politicians mixed with, I think, doctors who have made the entire world so frigging afraid. And I think Dr. Fauci, I think other guys that have done that. And I think it's proofs in the pudding here. But should be a fun game tonight. Nobody in the building, but nevertheless, just idiotic from the Ontario government. But there's my little rant of the day. Had to happen. I can't go through a Monday podcast, so it's something just really ticking me off over the weekend. So there it is for today. Some great NBA action over the week. Some series that are really, really compelling. Tonight we got two games. We got the 76ers playing the Wizards in Washington. It looks like the end of the line for the Wizards. Saturday night, the Sixers shooting 50%, 16 for 32 from the three-point line. Danny Green, 6 3-pointers. Joel Embiid dropped 36. Westbrook and Beal were no match. They look banged up to me. I don't know if they have a lot of gas left in the tank. It's been a long season for them. So I expect Philly to move on. They're going to play the winner of Atlanta and the Knicks. And yesterday, big game from John Collins. Trae Young continues to have a breakout playoff. And you see that sold-out crowd in Atlanta where they just took over the game. Trae Young finding Bogdanovich for threes. I mentioned John Collins getting offensive rebounds. Clint Capella creating more scoring opportunities. The bench play for the Hawks. And really, the biggest problem for the Knicks this postseason has been Julius Randle and his shot. He's shooting below 30% just from the floor, let alone from three. He's been terrible. Derrick Rose has been their one really spark plug. But yesterday, they took him away. They didn't let him score, and it showed because opportunities dried up. Julius Randle was forced to shoot the ball. RJ Barrett. But towards the end of the game, it got out of hand, and Atlanta just played the reserves down the stretch because, Atlanta, the Knicks were down by so many. But heads back to New York. I believe that's a Wednesday. That'll be Game 5. But unless the Knicks can find a serum here where Julius Randle can get his stroke going again, they can get some more rebounds, create more opportunities, and not turn the ball over as much. It looks like Atlanta and Philly are set to match up in the second round, which is a weird second round playoff matchup where, Atlanta Hawks have been at the basement of the Eastern Conference for so long. But it's good to see a guy like Trae Young, aka Ice Trae, really emerge as a star. And even to win a round for the Atlanta Hawks would be a big accomplishment for that market and a fan base that's gotten a great crowd reaction thus far. Also on the weekend, it was the two LA teams. Obviously, there's interest. And Friday night, it started with a must-win game for the Los Angeles Clippers, where they're down 2-0, heading back to Dallas to play the Mavericks in front of a loud crowd. And it started off terrible. Luka Doncic had 11 points in the first minute and a half. He was 4 for 4. They're down 30-11 with about 6-7 minutes left in the first quarter. And Rick Carlisle decides to sub out Doncic. And through this period, Clippers just go on a tear. Kawhi makes a 3. Paul George makes 2. They insert Nicholas Batum. He makes a 3. They're getting some offensive rebounds. Zubac in the paint just dominating. And when they check Doncic back in, it's only a 2-point lead. And through the first half, it's close. Second half is close, but the Clippers, Kawhi had 36, Paul George 29. Reggie Jackson stepped up with a 20-point game. And you could look at it. It was a 118-108 win on the road. And free throws was a key component. Clippers went 17 for 18 from the line. 95%, really efficient. Dallas went 12 for 18, missing 6. They lost by 10, but 6 points, who knows? You get another possession, something happens, but free throws was a big deal. Doncic was also hurt in the game. He had 41 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, but he had a neck problem. And that really drug into last night where he wasn't himself, but also on the road, the Clippers had no help from their bench, from the role players. Through the first 2 games, the Mavericks were getting just maximum effort from the role players. Tim Hardaway Jr., who is in the starting lineup, but he's a 3-point shooter. He's kind of a specialist. He had 20 points in Game 1 and Game 2. just off the charts. Dorian Finney-Smith was playing great defense, and he was knocking down open threes. Max Kleber was shooting 55% from three after the first two games, just lights out. And then you got contributions from guys like Jalen Brunson off the bench, the backup point guard, who is a spark plug from Villanova. When he comes into the game, he brings something different to the table. And that it dried up last night. Doncic was banged up. We saw, and it was a flat effort from Dallas. They shot 16% from three-point range last night as a team. It's not just Doncic. As a team, they stunk. And you look at the role players. Kleber last night, 0 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., 4 points. Finney-Smith, 8. They were just getting no productivity. And they get blown out 106-81. So that means the Mavericks win both games in LA. Clippers win both games in Dallas. And they head back to LA for game 5 tomorrow night, locked at 2. And before it was being told the Clippers are done. They're a team that's fragile mentally. And Friday night was really a turning point for me. Down 30-11. It's the first quarter, but they could have folded easily. They could have lost that game by 30 plus points, but they battled back. And Kawhi Leonard really willed that team. He's starting to play better defensively on Luka. Luka's not as dynamic as he was. And game 5 is obviously the huge game. You got Clippers back at home. They lose the first 2 at home. If they win tomorrow night at home, I believe they will win this series in 6 games because it seems the Mavericks are banged up right now. They don't have the confidence that they did in the beginning. The Clippers are riding it. And the Clippers are a better team, in my opinion. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are better collectively than Doncic and Porzingis. Porzingis he's lacking something. When he came into the league as a Knick, everybody thought this guy was going to be the next great thing, the unicorn of the NBA when it comes to being a 7-foot-tall monster, being a guy that can dominate the paint. He's got a mid-range shot, and he's got a stroke from three-point range where he can shoot 40+%. But he's constantly injured. He's inconsistent, and he hasn't been a great defensive player in this series either because he's been getting torched. So I view tomorrow night as the pivotal game. Dallas can find a way to win it. I think we'll be maybe back for 7 potentially. But if you get an elimination game, the Clippers don't like them. They lose those elimination games. They did it last year in game 7 against Denver, where they just choked it away. So however healthy Doncic is, the role players, they need to find their game and bring it tomorrow, because I think that could be the key to them winning the series. Otherwise, the Clippers, I think, will wrap this up in 6 and be waiting for either Portland or Denver, who are also locked in at a 2-2 tie after Portland beat Denver by 20 points Saturday afternoon. Then we get to Lakers and Suns. They played Thursday night, where the Lakers got the better of the Suns. Chris Paul barely played. Shoulder injury was still nagging him. We saw Devin Booker get tossed from the game. And it was, they only got to 93 points, the Suns. They weren't shooting the ball well at all, and especially from 3. And that's been a big part of the series. Both teams are not shooting very well from 3. Yesterday, both teams shot less than 35% as a team from 3-point range. And, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, his stroke struggling from 3. Caruso isn't there. Even LeBron, Devin Booker, he's a mid-range shooter. He's like Kevin Durant. That's not his specialty. He hasn't been knocking them down. Chris Paul, his shoulder's been compromised. So we head into the game yesterday. I'm thinking Lakers win today. Yeah, they'll head back to Phoenix for game 5, but I think Phoenix will win. We'll lose that one too. Lakers wrap this one up in 5. But things change. Close first half. Again, both teams not shooting the ball very well. But one thing you noticed from the start is that the Suns were playing as a team. They were not focusing on one individual player. It was just spreading the ball around. Jake Crowder was scoring. Miles Bridges. Chris Paul looked better. He looked the healthiest he's been since the first quarter of game 1. And he was shooting his mid-range shot. We saw some hook shots from him. His 3-point shot was not close. A few of them were barely hit the rim. But his mid-range game was good. He was assisting the basketball. But we had to half, Suns up by 3. But at the end of the second quarter, Anthony Davis went down hard on the floor, and it looked first like it was his ankle, potentially his knee. but he's had so many injury problems over his career, and he's been the catalyst of the series because he's a matchup nightmare. He plays at the power forward spot because Drummond, the big center, plays at center, and DeAndre Ayton can only guard one guy, so he's on Drummond. Then you got Davis, who's on Jay Crowder, who plays the four, an undersized four, and it's just been an easy matchup for Davis just to get to the paint. He wasn't doing it enough in the first half, but again, just a little floater over Crowder. It's easy money for the big man. But second half starts, he's nowhere to be seen, and he ends up playing no minutes in the second half. Kyle Kuzma, a bench player, comes out and plays for him, and it did not go well. Kuzma was picking up offensive fouls. He's a guy that I know a lot of Lakers fans just have a disdain for because some games he looks like he's a superstar. Others, he's taking stupid fouls. He turns the ball over, and it's just not good. And in the second half, at points, it was all Suns were up by as many as 18. LeBron was turning the ball over. They weren't making shots. And looking at this series, LeBron hasn't been anything special. Yesterday, he had 25 points, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, which is an okay stat line, but it's LeBron James. It's the quote unquote best player in the world, and he didn't look great yesterday. His shot from three is not great. He's turning the ball over at an alarming rate, and it's just there's something missing. He could still be banged up from his injury, but he's on the court, and with no Anthony Davis, it's on LeBron. If he goes out in the first round, that's going to be a disaster for him when it comes to public relations because he's chasing one guy, and that's Michael Jordan. And for this late in the career on the Lakers, on a team that's the favorite to get out of the West, that would be just a nightmare for LeBron James. But I mentioned the Suns just scoring. Crowder, 17 points. Miles Bridges, these are all their starters, 11 points. DeAndre Ayton, 14 points, 17 rebounds. Devin Booker had 17 points. And then you got Chris Paul with 18 points, 9 assists. So none of them had huge games. Devin Booker shot 5 for 15 yesterday. Terrible. But they only got to 100 points, but they kept the Lakers to 92, where LeBron wasn't aggressive enough. Caruso wasn't playing well. Kuzma was struggling. No Anthony Davis. And their 2 wins have been emphasized on the back of Anthony Davis. And it was just paramount yesterday where they had nobody to go to. Marc Gasol provided a spark. He was better than Andre Drummond yesterday. To be honest, I think they should look into playing Gasol in the starting lineup for Game 5 if Anthony Davis cannot go. Drummond is a better rebounder. He's better defensively than Marc Gasol. But Marc Gasol provides something offensively that Drummond can't. He's got a 3-point shot. He's a better shooter than Drummond. Drummond can score in the paint. That's it. Marc Gasol has an outside shot. We saw him yesterday. He had some jump yesterday. He doesn't get a lot of minutes. He looked excited to be out there. He provided a spark. Drummond's just stagnant for me. He blocks up the lane for LeBron. He did the same thing for Anthony Davis. And I think they need to look at Marc Gasol as a potential option to get, I think he played 14 minutes yesterday. If there's no Anthony Davis for Game 5, I think you got to look at him getting even more minutes down the stretch here. But the Suns win. That evens the series at 2, Game 5 in Phoenix. I believe that's tomorrow, but I'll check that out right now. But it's a tight series. So yeah, that is tomorrow. Lakers Suns from Phoenix, and then you got Mavericks Clippers on Wednesday. Hawks Knicks just before that on ESPN. So that's what's going down. We also last night, the Brooklyn Nets took a stranglehold lead on the Boston Celtics, winning in the Garden, 141-126. The game was a lot more lopsided than that. Jason Tatum was basically playing by himself. Jaylen Brown's been out all playoffs, but he was out without Robert Williams, without Kemba Walker, and he had to go up against Kevin Durant, who had 42. Just great performance. Kyrie Irving bounced back after a terrible Game 3. He had 39 points, 11 rebounds. And then James Harden, just the magician, 23 points, but 18 assists on the night. And Brooklyn Nets, they don't play a whole lot of defense, but they can score with anybody. And it looks like Brooklyn is going to advance. I think Tuesday night's that game, Game 5. I think they'll advance at home. And the Milwaukee Bucks will be waiting for them. Milwaukee swept the Miami Heat on Saturday, so they're sitting there waiting. Really a dominating first-round performance from the Bucks. They're without Dante DiVincenzo, a bench player for the remainder of the postseason, but they look better in the first round than they did the past 2 years coming into the postseason as a number one overall seed. So that should be the series of the second round when it comes to the Eastern Conference. The West still so up in the air. We got Utah and Memphis. Utah leads that series 2-1, but John Morant almost willed Memphis back to a win on Saturday night. Portland, Denver, 2-2. Every series out west is 2-2. We see a sweep. I think Brooklyn will get through out east. Hawks are up 3-1. And then the other series we have is Philly can sweep tonight as well. So the East is much more lopsided. It can be done relatively soon, while out west we're seeing a lot of battles that potentially could go 6-7 games here. So some intrigue out west. It's a loaded field out west, and a lot of potential options there. So there's so many sports. I mean, I could talk about just wrapping up here. Over the weekend, I thought it was really impressive. The San Francisco Giants, they got swept by the Los Angeles Dodgers last weekend in a 3-game set, and Dodgers look out of this world. And then we get to yesterday. We get to this weekend. Sorry, Dodgers take game 1 Thursday. I'm like, okay, here we go. They won 4 in a row. But San Francisco, to their credit, they win 3 straight over the weekend, including roughing up Clayton Kershaw yesterday for 5 earned runs in the first 4 innings. Kevin Gausman, he was a pitcher for the Orioles. He's been a reclamation project. He's got a 1.6 ERA. They just have a bunch of guys. Evan Longoria is the everyday third baseman, the old Tampa Bay Ray All-Star. Brandon Crawford's still there. Solano. They don't have a cast of characters that are brand name, but they're right there with the Padres and the Dodgers. It's in the division, first place, third place is separated by only 2 games. The teams are so close, and you see the Padres take 2 or 3 against the Houston Astros this weekend. That was impressive from them. The Yankees got swept by the Detroit Tigers this weekend. That is ugly for them. The Blue Jays took 2 or 3 from the Cleveland Indians. We did see a lot of rainouts this weekend, as we saw this morning here in Wrexham. We got some rain, and there was a number of storms down south, so a couple of rainouts this weekend. We saw at the PGA, the Colonial, Jason Kokrak took home the victory yesterday, shooting even par at 14 under to win the tournament. Jordan Spieth, the guy has had 4 leads this year after 54 holes, and he's only won 1 of the tournaments. Yesterday, he shot 3 over. He was within a stroke on 18, but on his second shot, his approach shot to the green, he airmailed it into the water. That sealed the tournament for Kokrak, winning by 2 strokes. And for Kokrak, he's in his 40s, and it's his second victory of the year. He's one of 3 guys that have won two tournaments this year. There's Kokrak, there's Stuart Sink, who's 47, which is incredible, and Bryson DeChambeau. So DeChambeau really the only brand name player there, but some guys that have just kind of battled their way through the PGA Tour are finding some success later in their age. We saw Phil Mickelson win the PGA Championship at 50. So it's good to see some of the older guys on tour get some momentum, get some success here later in their career. But yeah, you had Kokrak, Spieth, Charlie Hoffman, who's finished in the top 5 his last 5 times out. He finished tied for third with Pat Gazier and veteran Ian Poulter. And we'll finish by talking about some tennis. Bianca Andreescu, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Denis Shapovalov will play today for the Canadians in the draw. Federer will play this morning, his first match. Nadal is scheduled to be on court. But Dominic Thiem, last year's finalist, who pushed Rafa Nadal to 4 sets, who's been in two French Open finals against Rafa, got defeated yesterday in the first round. He's out. Massive exit for him. He's one of the guys that can actually compete with Rafa on clay, and he's gone. So a huge member of the draw, member of the men's quarter gone. And then we had Alexander Zverev, who was down 2 sets to his fellow countryman Audi yesterday. I'm like, Zverev, finally starting to find some success. Made the U.S. Open final last year, beat Nadal a couple weeks ago. But he comes back, to his credit, from 2 sets down. He comes back, wins it. He stays in the tournament. And he did look a lot more confident as the match went on, but he survived that scare. And we'll see what transpires today. But a lot of tennis throughout the next couple weeks. That'll lead us into Wimbledon. It'll be good to be back at the All England Club, because there was no Wimbledon last year with the pandemic. So we'll have the Wimbledon back in July. We'll also have the Open Championship in golf back in July, because both of those were canceled last year due to the pandemic. So it'll be fun to have that action back in England. So great weekend of sports. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoy Game 7 tonight and Game 2 of Islanders Bruins, as well as whatever else you're watching today on Memorial Day down in the United States. So everybody, stay safe, take care, and we'll talk soon.